The Kings and the Lakers share a state, but it's a big state. And for most of their existence, these teams were at different tiers of the NBA, so they had no reason to beef. Until the turn of the century, when everything changed. In the year 2000, after nearly 2 decades of sub-500 seasons and one nice season, the Kings looked good, and cool and fun. And they made the playoffs as the 8th seed. Meanwhile, the Lakers, led by Shaq, Kobe, and their new coach Phil Jackson, had the best record in the league and were expected to take the title with ease. 1st and 8th seed met in round 1 of the playoffs, that's normal. The 1 seed won the first game by a lot, that's normal. But actually, this is where our beef begins. Because why should the Kings accept their elimination as a foregone conclusion, especially when they didn't like the refereeing? All-star Chris Webber, who only played 27 minutes due to foul trouble, felt the refs were on the Lakers' bandwagon. Kings coach Rick Adelman said Shaq received favorable treatment from the refs. And instead of being like, forget this round 1 team, Shaq took offense and called Adelman an idiot. LA then won Game 2 by 24 points. Everyone thought the Kings were done and kind of annoying. But that opinion was short-lived. The next 2 games were in Sacramento, and the Kings won both of them. First by almost double digits, and then by double digits. That's a tied series. That's the 67-win Lakers facing elimination. How'd the Kings turn things around? Well, if you ask the Lakers, by getting away with fouling Shaq and playing illegal defense. Seems it was the Lakers' turn to complain about the officiating. Though if you ask Robert Horry, it's different when the Lakers complain. Less babyish. LA also wasn't in love with the Sacramento crowd, who provided a real home court advantage. Before games, the Kings hype squad lit Laker jerseys on fire at half court. Throughout the arena, fans rang cowbells, or just held up battery-powered cowbells and let them make noise. I don't totally understand the instrument, but it was effective. Jackson said that his players couldn't hear him during timeouts. And that's not all Jackson said. He called the people of Sacramento semi-civilized rednecks, and then insulted the idea of fan influence altogether. Teams like Sacramento need hype. The Lakers don't need hype. Might need a little beef though, huh, Coach? The Kings' co-owner, Joe Maloof, sort of accidentally fired back. He thought he was speaking off the record when he called Phil Jackson arrogant, weak, and only successful because he coached teams with superstars. But thing about teams with superstars, they tend to win. Sacramento eliminated, NBA hierarchy restored, and Phil Jackson no longer serving beef, but rather the tasteless, wilted greens of good effort, good game. But what's that? Just under the greens? Nudge him with your fork? Ah, the beef hasn't disappeared. As the Lakers were winning the finals, it came out that Jackson had compared Adelman to Hitler to help motivate his players. An offended Adelman wondered aloud in the press how hard it must be to motivate the likes of Shaq and Michael Jordan. When the teams met in November of the 2001 season, Jackson again went after Kings fans, which is an odd thing for a reigning champion coach to do. Unless, of course, he's been baited by cowbells and challenges to his legacy. Come playoff time, the Lakers were the 2 seed, and right behind them were the Kings, who beat Phoenix to win their first postseason series in 20 years, and they celebrated accordingly. Or if you ask their round 2 matchup, they celebrated way too much for an opening round win and should be embarrassed. Jackson tried to pull back the judgment, saying, no, it's nice that Sacramento celebrated. Those goofy guys like to have fun and do drugs? Jackson was trying to mitigate nothing. This was a fake jovial comment. Jackson knew Webber had recently been acquitted of drug charges, and Jason Williams had been suspended for violating the team's drug policy that year. Williams had a response for the coach. Was goof more of an insult in the early 2000s? Game 1, round 2, Lakers win by 3 points. And once again, the losing team had something to say about the officiating. Shaq then fired back, though is this part an insult or just an innocent observation about butt size? Doesn't matter too much, because the Lakers went on to sweep the Kings. But the 01-02 season looked like a new dawn in Sacramento. With Mike Bibby at point, the Kings finished with the best record in the league, and everybody loved them. But they did have an Achilles heel, who they had to face in the Western Conference Finals. The Kings lost Game 1. Here they were, best they'd ever been, home court advantage, and they still couldn't beat LA. What was it gonna take? Sabotage? Maybe. Definitely if you ask a certain segment of Lakers fans. They believe the Kings, or rather their fans, poisoned Kobe Bryant. Now, that's never actually been proven. Here's what we know. The night before Game 2, Kobe Bryant ordered room service in his Sacramento hotel, a cheeseburger and a slice of cheesecake. Delicious. At 4:30 a.m., he called the Lakers trainer, who found the star vomiting and diarrheaing and curled up like a shrimp in his room. Kobe played the next day after receiving 3 liters of IV fluid. His numbers dipped, the Lakers lost. Of the 1,200 room service meals that were served that same night, nobody else got food poisoning. Those are the facts. The conclusions you draw are up to you. And if you need some help coming to conclusions, here are some popular theories. 1. The mob poisoned Kobe because they wanted a title for New Jersey. 2. Kobe wasn't actually that sick, he just wanted attention and/or to psych out Sacramento. A lot of Kings believed this one. 3. The hotel poisoned him because Sacramento fans are insane and criminal. This one was popular in LA. It's not clear if Kings fans believed the hotel poisoned Kobe, but they seem to like the idea that the hotel poisoned Kobe. Cheeseburger orders skyrocketed, and a local food critic came to sample the dish. The Lakers downplayed the idea that Kobe was purposely poisoned, but that doesn't mean they didn't have complaints about Game 2. Referring to the officiating, O'Neal said the only way Sacramento could win was to cheat, though he spoke in code. Adelman noted that blaming the refs isn't very becoming of 2-time champions. But after Game 4, when the Lakers evened up the series on a thrilling Robert Horry buzzer beater, Adelman himself had some complaints about the refs. Hey, Adelman's not a 2-time champ. Game 5 was another close one, but this time it was the Kings' last second shot that sealed the victory, and the Lakers who had issues with the officiating. But hold on to your hat, here comes Game 6. Game 6 of the 2002 Western Conference Finals is known as one of the worst called games in NBA history, to the extent that many believe the game was rigged, a theory which was bolstered by disgraced ref Tim Donaghy saying it was rigged. Now, that's never been proven. Here's what we know. The Lakers shot a lot more free throws than Sacramento. Both of the Kings' centers fouled out. Chris Webber had 5 fouls. To understand the impact of these numbers, let's look at some of the calls in the context of the game and people's facial expressions. With a little over 3 minutes left, Sacramento was up 92-90. Webber drove and offensive foul. Doesn't look like much. Even the broadcasters didn't like it.
And this is a terrible call.
And that is the face of a man who's having a trip to the finals stolen from him. About 10 seconds later, Kings starting center Vlade Divac fouled out for grabbing the ball after someone else fouled Horry. Look at Adelman's reaction. This could be a Renaissance painting that rivals the Mona Lisa. You can see the helplessness seeping in to overtake frustration and anger. With 12 seconds left, Sacramento down 1, Bibby takes an elbow to the face from Kobe. No call. Broadcasters again disagree with the refs.
An elbow. Yes, an elbow.
And Bibby's face shows he certainly was not flopping. And yes, it was Sacramento's turn as the losers to complain about the referees, but nobody faulted them for it. The national press agreed. What the fuck? Game 7 was a bust for the Kings. They played nervous, hesitant. The Lakers won in overtime. And while the Lakers had the opportunity to be gracious in winning, they chose not that. Shaq mooned fans as the Laker bus left Arco Arena. Meanwhile, in the immediate aftermath, the Kings were too crushed to fight. Adelman refused to call the Lakers the superior team. That's as close as he got to beefing in that moment. But give it some time. As the Lakers competed in the finals yet again, the Kings talked. They were still angry about the refereeing, who could blame them, and Adelman actually brought up a newish complaint. Shaq responded before Game 2 of the finals with a rap written just for Rick Adelman. At least he didn't moon him. Shaq then had a fantastic Game 2. Look at his free throw shooting. He celebrated by rubbing it in Adelman's face. Seems like just quietly accepting his ring a few games later would have sufficed as a response, but you must remember, we're eating beef. And it's not like the end of the season marked the end of the war. The Kings were expected to challenge the Lakers for Western Conference supremacy for seasons to come. Let's take a look at the next season that came, the 02-03 season. On Media Day, Shaq denied the idea that the Kings were a threat in the most aggressive way possible. Oh, no, never mind, he got way more aggressive as the preseason went on. Not a chess player, I guess. At the end of October, the teams met in the last preseason game on the schedule. Just before the game, O'Neal provided analysis of the Kings' Game 7 loss. Chris was scared to shoot, and Vlade was so scared he fouled out on purpose. And 2 minutes and 7 seconds into that preseason game, the punching began. Well, I guess first there was Rick Fox's elbow, then a palming, then Doug Christie punching. Fox and Christie were ejected, Christie jogs off the floor to the tunnel, but where's Rick Fox? He is sprinting around the back hallway to meet Christie in the tunnel. The whole Sacramento team piles in, Shaq, in street clothes due to injury, joins the brawl, and I mean brawl. This woman swinging her purse is Doug Christie's wife. The broadcaster said a chair was thrown, but there's too much chaos. I don't think the camera caught that one.
Chairs are being thrown.
This scene right here is the culmination of 3 years of intense, real competition. Fox was suspended for 6 games, Christie for 2 games, but nobody else got in trouble. Oh, and the fight solved nothing. Fox blamed the Kings for the whole incident and continued to fan the flames beneath the beef. The next time these teams saw each other was Christmas Day. The matchup would have been more exciting if the Lakers weren't having a weird, low-energy, worst-in-years start. The Kings, however, were looking strong and expected to be back in the Western Conference Finals. Rick Fox wouldn't shake anybody's hand before the game, but the beef was on its way out. Both teams were eliminated in the second round that year by teams that weren't each other, and in that second round, Webber hurt his knee and he and the Kings were never the same. The Lakers saw the finals again in 2004, but didn't win them, and then Shaq moved on. Nearly a decade later, Shaq actually bought a minority share of the Kings in 2013. He apologized for some of his comments, and the fans forgave him. It's just so charming. But while direct hostilities might not be ongoing, a lot of people still feel the heat of this beef. Like the Kings players from 2000 to 2002, particularly those involved in that 2002 Western Conference Finals Game 6. In 2020, Doug Christie was still presenting evidence that the Kings were the superior team. And while the fans might forgive Shaq, that doesn't mean they concede his team was better. For 3 years in a row, the Kings and Lakers didn't just meet in the postseason, they battled. That's gonna cause some beef, but when you mix in the personalities involved, you get tainted beef. Perhaps literally, perhaps figuratively, but either way, the 2002 Sacramento Kings and the fans of the franchise from then on got left with a rotten cut of beef the size of California instead of a ring. Thanks for watching, everybody. To watch more videos, click here. To subscribe, click here. To achieve eternal life, drink more water, probably. For Secret Base, I'm Clara Morris. Good night and good game.